He never hit her. Never shouted. Never threatened. But every time she heard his footsteps, her heart started racing. This is the story of a woman who wasn't hit, but was slowly erased. He never raised his hand. That was the sentence she repeated whenever doubt crept in. Like a prayer. Like a defense lawyer rehearsing a closing argument. He never hit her. So whatever this was, it had to be love. Or at least something close enough. The first time she noticed fear in her body, it didn't make sense to her. Her phone buzzed. His name lit up the screen. And her chest tightened, just a little. A quick, sharp inhale she didn't mean to take. She told herself she was being dramatic. He was calling to check on her. That's what good partners do. By the third ring, her hands were already cold. In the beginning, he was gentle in a way that felt intentional. He listened with his whole face. Leaned in. Remembered small things. Finished her sentences like they were shared property. You're different, he told her once, smiling softly. Most people don't think the way you do. It felt like being chosen. When he said, I've never felt safe like this with anyone, she felt proud. When he said, you're the only one I can really trust, she felt necessary. That was the first brick. The rules didn't arrive as rules. They arrived as concern. Why does that friend always talk down to you? I just don't like how that guy looks at you. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone but me. He said it calmly. Reasonably. As if he were protecting something fragile. As if she were fragile. When she pushed back, softly, carefully, he didn't argue. He sighed. And that sigh did more damage than shouting ever could. I guess I just care more than you do. He didn't say it angrily. He said it tiredly. Like love was exhausting him. She apologized immediately. She always did. The apologies became currency. Each one bought temporary peace. Each one came with a small debt attached. I'm sorry, turned into. Can you just stay home tonight? I didn't mean it like that, turned into. If you loved me, you wouldn't need them so much. Every apology was followed by a favor. Every favor cost her something she couldn't quite name yet. Her laugh changed first. She stopped laughing loudly. Stopped interrupting. Stopped telling stories that didn't involve him. He never asked her to be quieter. He just went still when she spoke too freely. And she learned the silence was worse than disapproval. Arguments with him were confusing in a way that left bruises no one could see. She would begin with something simple. You hurt my feelings. He would tilt his head. When? She would explain. He would nod slowly. So you're saying I'm a bad person? No. Because that's what it sounds like. Suddenly she was defending him. By the end, she couldn't remember what she was upset about, only that she felt cruel for bringing it up. He would forgive her afterward. That forgiveness felt like oxygen. He never shouted. He never threatened. He never blocked the door. But sometimes he stood in front of it while talking. Sometimes he took her phone and held it lightly, like a joke, while finishing his sentence. Sometimes he smiled while saying things that made her stomach drop. I could ruin you, you know. But I'd never do that. He laughed after. She forced a laugh too. Her body didn't believe the joke. The fear didn't live in moments of rage. It lived in anticipation. In the way she rehearsed conversations before having them. In the way she scanned his face for signs of mood shifts. In the way her pulse sped up when she heard his kiss. She learned the sound of his footsteps. She learned how to soften herself before he entered the room. By the time she realized she was shrinking, she couldn't remember when she'd last been whole. Her opinions came with disclaimers. Her desires came with apologies. Her memories felt edited. When friends asked how she was, she said, "Good. Just busy." She didn't know how to explain that she was living inside someone else's emotional weather system. That the smallest wrong word could trigger days of cold politeness. That love felt like a test she was always failing. One night, lying beside him in the dark, she stared at the ceiling and understood something terrifying. If he hit her, she could leave. If he screamed, she could justify running. But this had no bruises. No witnesses. No single moment she could point to and say, "That's when it became abuse." He never hit her. Yet her heart was always racing. Her voice was always careful. Her life was getting smaller. And somewhere, deep inside her chest, a quiet thought kept repeating. If I disappear completely, he'll finally be satisfied. The isolation didn't arrive with ultimatums. It arrived dressed as loyalty. When her phone buzzed and she smiled at a message, his eyes would flicker, just for a second. "Who's that?" She answered casually at first. "A friend. A cousin. Someone from work." He nodded. Later that night, he'd say, "I just feel like you're more present with other people than with me." It sounded vulnerable. But reasonable. She stopped replying as quickly. Then she stopped initiating conversations altogether. Not because he told her to. Because peace required silence. Her friends noticed before she did. "You've changed," one of them said gently. "You're always apologizing." She laughed it off. "I'm just trying to be a better partner." She didn't tell them that being better meant measuring every word before speaking. That it meant deleting messages before he could read them, not because they were wrong, but because she was tired of explaining herself. Eventually, the invitation slowed. She didn't chase them. She was already exhausted. He framed dependence as intimacy. "Why do you need outside opinions? We should be a team. People project their insecurities onto us." Us. That word became a cage. Any thought that didn't align with us became a betrayal. The guilt was surgical. When she was tired, he was disappointed. When she needed space, he was wounded. When she cried, he was offended. "Now I feel like the bad guy." So she learned to swallow tears. Learned to cry in bathrooms, in the shower, into pillows pressed against her face. He would notice her red eyes and say nothing. Silence was his sharpest weapon. The emotional imprisonment wasn't loud. It was procedural. 1,000 small permissions she no longer asked for, but still waited to receive. What to wear? What tone to use? What version of herself was acceptable that day? If she dressed confidently, he'd say, "Who are you trying to impress?" If she dressed plainly, "I miss when you used to care." There was no right answer. Only adjustment. Control wrapped itself around her sense of reality. He remembered things differently than she did. Conversations shifted in his retelling. Words changed. Intentions reversed. "You're misremembering. That never happened. You're too emotional to be objective." At first, she argued. Then she doubted. Then she started writing things down, notes on her phone, dates, fragments, just to reassure herself that she wasn't losing her mind. When he found them, he laughed. "Wow. You really don't trust me at all, do you?" She deleted the notes. Fear became background noise. Not panic. Not terror. Just a constant low hum beneath everything. The fear of displeasing him. The fear of being misunderstood. The fear of needing too much. She learned how to predict his moods with unsettling accuracy. The way his jaw tightened. The way his voice went flat. The way affection disappeared without explanation. Punishment without cause. Forgiveness without accountability. He made himself the measure of her worth. When she succeeded, he downplayed it. When she failed, he remembered it forever. I stuck by you when no one else would. That sentence followed every disagreement. It was a leash. She started to fantasize about escape, but only in abstract ways. Not leaving him. Just disappearing. Starting over as someone with fewer opinions. Less history. No voice that needed defending. She wondered who she'd be if she never met him. The thought scared her. Because she couldn't remember. At night, lying beside him, she felt lonelier than she ever had alone. He would wrap an arm around her waist, possessive and warm. "You're mine," he'd whisper. Her body stiffened before her mind could react. She told herself that fear didn't count if it wasn't caused by violence. That terror without bruises was just anxiety. That love was supposed to be hard. But her body knew the truth before she did. The shallow breathing. The constant tension. The way relief only came when he wasn't around. She wasn't living. She was performing safety. He never hit her. But he rewrote her reality. He rationed affection. He made her doubt her own mind. And slowly, methodically, he trained her to believe that survival was the same thing as love. The moment she almost told someone, he sensed it. He always did. It was the way predators sense movement in tall grass, nothing visible, just a shift in the air. She had spent the afternoon with an old friend, someone who remembered her before. Someone who laughed the way she used to laugh. For 2 hours, she forgot to monitor herself. For 2 hours, she breathed. When she came home, he was unusually calm. Too calm. "So," he said lightly, "did you have fun talking about me?" Her stomach dropped. She hadn't mentioned his name once. But he smiled like he already knew the truth. He didn't accuse. He dissected. People don't ask questions for no reason. "I just hope you're not letting outsiders poison what we have. I thought you understood us better than that." He sounded hurt. Wounded. Like she had betrayed him. She apologized before she realized she was doing it. That night, he cried. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just enough. "I don't know why I'm never enough for you." She held him while something inside her quietly folded in on itself. That was when she learned something crucial. His pain always mattered more than hers. From then on, any attempt at independence was framed as abandonment. A new goal. "Are you trying to leave me behind?" A boundary. "So now I'm the enemy." A moment of silence. "Are you planning to punish me?" Every step toward herself was twisted into a weapon against him. So she stopped stepping. The control deepened when she became tired. Exhaustion made her easier to shape. He kept her emotionally busy, late-night conversations, unresolved tension, constant emotional audits. "How are you feeling right now? Are you sure? Talk to me." There was never resolution. Only maintenance. She slept lightly. Woke often. Dreamed of being chased through rooms with no doors. Her sense of self began to erode. She stopped trusting her reactions. Stopped labeling things as wrong. Stopped believing discomfort meant anything. If something hurt, she assumed she deserved it. If something felt off, she blamed her sensitivity. If she felt scared, she reminded herself. He's never hit me. He controlled the narrative outside the relationship too. He spoke kindly about her to others, but in ways that made her seem fragile. She struggles sometimes. She overthinks. She's very emotional, but I love her. If she ever spoke up, she sounded exactly like the person he'd described. That was intentional. The prison became invisible. No locked doors. No threats. Just the quiet understanding that resistance would cost her everything she had left. her peace, her stability, her sense of being loved. He didn't need to say it. She already knew. Sometimes he would be wonderful, attentive, affectionate, soft. Those moments were devastating, because they proved he could be kind, which meant the cruelty must be her fault. She started dissociating without knowing the word for it. Staring at walls. Losing time. Feeling like she was watching her life from a distance. Her body was present. Her mind was hiding. It was the only safe place left. One evening, she caught her reflection in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. Her eyes looked smaller, dimmer, like someone who had learned not to take up space. She tried to remember the last time she felt excited about anything that wasn't him. She couldn't. That realization terrified her more than his anger ever had. She understood then. This wasn't love. It was occupation. Her emotions were monitored. Her thoughts were managed. Her identity was slowly being replaced with a version that caused the least resistance. He never hit her. But he colonized her inner world. The most dangerous part. She was starting to believe she couldn't survive without him. That the silence outside the relationship would be louder than the pain inside it. That living would be worse than disappearing piece by piece. She didn't live in one brave moment. There was no dramatic confrontation. No packed suitcase by the door. No speech where she finally said everything she'd rehearsed in her head. She left in fragments. The first thing to go was her belief that love should feel like fear. That thought arrived quietly one morning while she was brushing her teeth. She caught herself flinching at the sound of his voice from the other room. And for the first time, she didn't explain it away. She just stood there, toothbrush frozen midair, and thought. This isn't normal. That thought didn't save her yet. But it cracked the wall. The second thing to go was her silence. Not all at once. Just small truths, spoken softly, to people she trusted a little. I feel tired all the time. I don't recognize myself anymore. I'm scared, and I don't know why. She didn't say his name. She didn't have to. He felt the shift immediately. Control always notices distance before love does. He became sweeter. More attentive. More fragile. You've been pulling away, he said. Are you trying to hurt me? The old version of her would have folded. This version paused. And that pause terrified him. The escalation wasn't loud. It was desperate. He reminded her of everything he'd done for her. Of how much he'd sacrificed. Of how broken she'd be without him. I'm the only one who understands you. This time, she heard the thread beneath the tenderness. Living didn't feel like freedom. It felt like jumping off a cliff with no guarantee the ground would be there. She left quietly. Logistics first. Safety first. One day, she was simply gone. No goodbye. No explanation. She knew explanations were just another opening. The aftermath was worse than she expected. Freedom didn't feel peaceful. It felt empty. She woke up panicking. Second-guessed every memory. Missed him in ways that made her hate herself. Trauma bonds don't break when the door closes. They echo. She almost went back. More than once. Healing wasn't inspirational. It was ugly. It looked like crying over nothing. Mistrusting kindness. Flinching at raised voices. Apologizing when she didn't need to. Grieving a man who never really existed. She mourned the version of him she loved, the one he used to control her. That grief was real. Even if the love wasn't healthy. Slowly, painfully, she learned something crucial. Fear had taught her to confuse intensity with intimacy. Control had taught her to mistake surveillance for care. Silence had taught her to believe her voice was dangerous. None of that was love. One day, months later, she noticed something small. She laughed. Out loud. Without checking the room. Her body didn't brace. Nothing bad happened. She cried afterward, not from sadness, but relief. He never hit her. But he taught her that terror could live quietly. That cages don't need locks. That abuse doesn't always leave marks, sometimes it leaves habits. She survived by unlearning them. And the final truth, the one that took the longest to accept. She wasn't weak for staying. She was conditioned. She wasn't stupid for loving him. She was human. And leaving didn't mean she won. It meant she stopped losing. Love should never make you afraid to be yourself. When care comes with control, affection with guilt, and peace with fear, it is not love, it is imprisonment. The absence of bruises does not mean the absence of harm. Kindly subscribe, like, and comment for more interesting stories.